Welcome to the Point of Convergence podcast. I am your host, Grant Lira. Get ready to sit down, tune in, and implement. Remember, the knowledge you learn here and anywhere else in your life is only worth something to you if you use it. So get implementing after this episode and enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Remodeling Millionaires. Today, we have CQC Home Design, Build, and Remodel. You may recognize them from HGTV or their laundry list of awards they've won, all the way from North Carolina. Ken, how we doing today, brother?
Doing great, my man. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Ken, let's start it out here. 60-second snippet of where you are right now, what you're focusing on, and what everything looks like within that.
Well, we oddly enough had our busiest year last year through COVID. Didn't have to lay anybody off. In fact, we've hired 4 new people in the last 2 months. So really just kind of getting ramped up for 2021 and trying to make sure that we, got the personnel and the resources to take advantage of the market. We're in the triangle here where it's a really growing market, has been for the last 8 years. And now, we're trying to ride that wave and take care of our clients. So that answer your question?
Absolutely. And you said it's funny because, I talk to a lot of interior design, interior remodeling companies. And one of the things I hear, it's pretty polarizing actually, is either COVID was horrible or COVID was awesome for them, like business wise. So what were some of the things that made it, something where you guys could actually grow? What were you focusing on then? What was the drive? How did that happen?
Well, we did our best to try to keep, kind of COVID at bay by keeping everybody safe and testing people and wearing masks and having, wash stations and stuff like that at all of our job sites and running HEPA filters. And so that being said, we had about 2 months where it slowed down, but I guess everybody just got tired of sitting at home doing nothing and wanted to spend money. And so they, kind of came back really strong towards the end of the summer. And then, this last quarter just kind of rode it really high.
Awesome. Yeah. People sit at home, look at their kitchen, their bathroom all the time, get sick of it, start to go a little stir crazy, and then they call you guys.
Yeah, and a lot of what has been going on lately is because of this kind of transition through COVID. A lot of people are wanting to work from home, so home offices, in-law suites where they can work from home, finishing over garages, adding garages with offices in them has gotten really popular.
Yep, there we go. And Ken, let's talk about this for a second here. So you guys started CQC and immediate success, right? Just took off.
Well, it's been it was just me and my wife for a long time, and and it was we had some rough years for sure. And then in 2013 was kind of when we transitioned from a construction company to a design build, and obviously we've gone through some people and gone through some speed bumps, but we're feel like we're in a good place right now.
Absolutely. And talking to that person who was in your shoes, maybe a little over 13 years ago, and maybe they want to be in your position and they're working those like 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, to get to where you guys are at. What advice would you tell those guys? Because I talk with a lot of people, and a lot of people are in that position. And I know what I would tell them, but I want to hear, from you exactly, because you've been through this journey. You know what that's like.
Back then, I always tried to be the hardest person in the room, but I always was just constantly learning because I have no formal training, very little to no college, and even really didn't really pay attention in high school. In fact, so but once I really realized that there was so little I knew and so much information out there, I spent a lot of my early years when I was busting my ass working hard, just reading and studying and learning and everything I possibly can, around my trade. So there were a lot of times I had no idea that I was going to be able to be successful. I just knew that I wanted to be, and I was willing to put in the work to do it. And I was willing to learn what I didn't know. Even still today, I try to hire people that are smarter than me that can tell me what to do, so I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, which sounds like a cliche, but it's true. I want to, I want to create a direction and have people work with me to get there. So, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that obviously I didn't do it by myself. I have a phenomenal team of people, and I've always surrounded myself with people that could help me get, to get from over the stuff.
Yeah. And I think people inside the organization itself are so important and so criminally underrated in some companies. And you take your culture real seriously, and that's awesome. Like, how do you go about finding those people? Because I know a lot of the times, people in this industry are quick to hire, quick to fire, and that's not always a bad thing if the situation permits it. But how did you guys find this team that's so solid? It has all this synergy together, and it really aligns with your goals, and you get them to see your vision and work towards that, and make it their vision as well.
I would say the answer to your question would be kind of the opposite of what you just said. We try to
Mm,
be slow to hire and fast to fire. So we and what we've always kind of done from day one, even with some failures, is try to hire people for their attitude. I've said before, like, we hire for attitude and then train aptitude. I can always do that. I can't train attitude. I can't teach people what kind of your mama should have taught you. So we try to just hire good people that fit into our culture, and then we find the right place for them on the bus, and then give them a position.
I like that a lot, Ken, because that's so true, man. Like, you can teach people a skill, but you cannot teach people an attitude or a mindset. You can. It takes a lot more time, I
Yeah,
guess. You could. You
you
could.
can demonstrate for them, but the reality of it is, if they're motivated, they're hardworking. They've got a good character. They want to do the right thing. They want to take care of the clients and give good customer service. I mean, there are people that inherently want to do that, and they just do it without help. And then there's some people that they just want to show up and get a job and go home.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it sometimes you make a mistake and you hire the wrong person, and you realize that because you can't fake it forever.
Definitely. I like that. Slow to hire, quick to fire. Awesome. Now, let's talk a little bit more about CQC. So, tell me the kind of, how everything got started, because, I made a joke earlier. You guys started and
Yeah.
successful right away. I know that's not the case. I think everybody knows that's not the case. So, give us your story, man. Tell us a little bit about, exactly what happened, where you guys were at. And I know there was a ton of risk involved, just like any, business venture when you start that up. So let's hear it, Ken. I'm looking forward to hearing this, man.
Well, I did a little unorthodox. So I didn't have, because of my background, I didn't have any, I didn't have like family to give me anything, and I didn't borrow any money. So I basically essentially robbed Peter to pay Paul early on. I used every dollar I made from my early jobs and just rolled them through to the next job. So, and then slowly built the business that way. I didn't actually start, which I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend that hindsight, starting up a business, but kind of just bootstrapped it. And for a long time, like I said, it was just my wife and I. We would, no, you hear people say they work 70 hours. We legitimately were working 70 hours a week. We would drive an hour and a half to a job, work till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I have very vivid memories of doing this, and it's just her and I, and on a construction site, building a staircase or building a project, and everyone else is at home and sleep, and we're working 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Go stay in a hotel, the cheapest one we could get because we couldn't afford anything else, and then turn around and get back to work at 6:30 in the morning, because we would only get paid if we finished the job. We're getting paid by the job, right? So every hour mattered. And so we did that for a couple of years until we, slowly learned and got better. And once we realized that obviously my wife got pregnant, and we realized I couldn't leverage her anymore. So we started bringing on people to try to help us to grow the business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys were running around. You were obviously, busting your ass, like you said. You were looking for the cheapest. Speaks volumes to kind of where your mind was at. And it's funny because I see a commonality with all of these successful people that I talk with, is that they in the beginning were super just head first, like, do what I need to do, grind my ass off and work towards this goal, save all the money I can. And then obviously, talking to these people now, including yourself, it's funny because, like, you guys have became very successful because of that. And I think people in the beginning phases of their business, they need to take that a little bit more seriously, and, like, seriously reinvest into themselves, right? From that business, reinvest into themselves. So what they are working so hard at actually has fuel to grow, and it has fuel to become the behemoth that they want it to. Now, Ken, how long were you like in that grind state? And not saying that you're not in it now. I should have said like how long were you guys in that really heavy like
Yeah.
this is what's going, you know what I'm saying? Like how
Yeah, I
long was
understand what
that
you're saying.
state
And no,
in?
you're right. I'm not in the same grind state I was then. Thankfully, I was able to get through that and bust through that wall. Not everyone does, man. There's a lot. I know people that are in their 50s and 60s that are still trying to really grind really hard to like figure things out. So, but no, I would say it was probably about 7 years of legitimately working, driving all over the place, working my ass off. Putting in the like 40 hours a week is like the minimum. I mean, that's just, it is hard. It is really hard to get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, go to work, and then not get home till 10, 11 o'clock at night. But that's what it takes to really get through that wall, because you're putting in twice as many hours as everybody else. And the time that I did have free to spend on myself, I spent educating myself and learning my craft or learning my trade. And so really it was probably more than 70 hours of investing in the business of remodeling. And once I got past learning how to do the job I was doing, then I had to start over and invest in learning how to be a businessman, and completely different types of books, completely different type of education, completely different type of training. And then I did that for about 4 years. And I got every magazine, every article, everything I could possibly find to try to learn so I could get the edge up. And I can't stress enough how important it is to invest in yourself, to invest in your own, no matter what business you are your most valuable asset, right? And no one's going to do it for you. So I spent a lot of time and energy invested in myself early on in those years. And it's paid off.
Definitely. And last thing I'll ask about this, kind of, I'll just call it the grind state for now. What kept you focused? Because somebody listening to this who doesn't know anything about you guys or doesn't know anything about maybe even starting their own business yet, they're thinking about it. 7 years of that sounds like a ton. Like, what was keeping you motivated? Did you have an end goal? Did you have little check-in goal? Like, what made you stay so motivated and so on that path of nothing is gonna come between me and my success, just me. So
Yeah,
I need to make this happen.
motivating factors. Obviously my family was a big part of it. I had kids early on, had a young wife and a young baby, and no one else was. I realized very early on, no one's going to do it for me. That's the reality of it. And so I had to figure it out on my own. And so I guess a lot of it came down to like I knew there was always someone out there working harder than me, working longer hours than me. I knew people more successful than me. And so since I was so motivated by my family to go out and make it work, and I knew that somebody was always going to be outpacing me, I just kept running fast as I can.
I love that. I love that. So taking a look at that from what we're at, today, obviously CQC, again, very successful. One of the things that you guys have talked about a few times now, and I think again is criminally underrated within a company, is the culture and like having those people who jive together and who have like I said before, the synergy. What are some of the things you guys do to make sure that culture stays around and it's something where it's almost inseparable from the business? Like the business is the culture, the goals of you guys are the goals of everybody. Like how do you guys instill that, and what are some of the things you do to make that happen?
Well, it's good timing because I just had a 1 hour meeting this morning with my team talking about our, kind of our key objectives and what is it going to take to get those, and how are we going to divide the team up so we can divide and conquer those objectives, but make sure that they're all still synergistic and pulling towards the same one. So we start off at high level. What are the goals we want for the company, not just financially, but from customer service to training and whatever. And then we break those down into smaller goals that everybody can have kind of input on, no matter what position they're in. And then once everybody has input on those, then there's buy-in from everybody. And we're all pulling the rope in the same direction, working towards the same goal. And I feel like, and I always have felt like, I tried to make our business like a family where one person depends on the other. We have on every whiteboard in my entire office, it says, rising tide raises all ships, because everyone here believes that. If one person does well, we all do well. If one person is struggling or hurting, we all kind of feel it, and it affects everybody.
I love that. Yeah. No, super, super true. So let's switch gears for a little bit here. And I want to talk a little bit about your sales process and what that looks like, because I mean, obviously, if you don't have sales, you don't have a company. Sales is in the end the driving factor of, your
Lifeblood.
guys' business. Yeah. What does that process look like? Is it you guys doing anything special? Is it kind of walk me through, somebody finds you guys and then what happens next from there?
I don't know that it's anything special. I think there's a couple of things that we do that I really aren't that hard, but a lot of people don't do them. Is consistency. Answering the phone consistently well, showing up on time consistently, responding back to clients within 24 hours consistently. It's okay. It's easy to do some things for a month or a couple of months or even maybe even a year, but to answer your phone every single time, to be always there when you say you're going to be there, to show up at every appointment either on time or early, and do that for years on end, it builds goodwill. It builds over time. And so we try to do what we say we're going to do. I don't think we do anything unique or crazy. I think someone calls us and we say we're going to be there, we show up, we give them care and attention, and offer value where we can. And if we can help them, we explain how and what that looks like. And if we can't help them, if we personally can't help them, we still try to find opportunities to help them by way of referring other people or giving them resources or whatever. So that way, no matter what, whether they hire us or not, we're still giving value to everybody we talk to.
That's fantastic. Consistency, giving value. Those are my two big takeaways. And I agree with that 100%. And looking at, something else still within kind of that sales realm, but more importantly, just the overall business realm, is having those KPIs, those key performance indicators, and, having metrics where you can actually measure, because if you don't have those, basically you're just doing your best guess of if you're spinning your wheels, if you're actually making forward progress. Tell us a little bit about, how you guys track, what you track, why you track it.
Well, I mean, it's like setting sail on a boat and you don't know where you're going. You can go left, right, and circle the whole planet and never get anywhere. So you got to have a target, no matter what that is. We use revenue, gross profit, quantity of sales, time for sales, and then we track all of those weekly, bi-weekly, and we share those with the team so they can see our successes and our failures and offer ways to help with that. So I mean, obviously, there's unlimited amount of KPIs you could possibly have, but we try to hone in on the ones that, and we try to not just focus on them, but track them and share them with the team, the ones that have the most, the highest impact on the organization.
Totally. And just to really drive this point home, like tracking is so important. Having those metrics to be able to look back at the end of the week or the end of the month, however you break up your key performance indicators, looking at those numbers and actually being able to see, because for the longest time, we talked to people and even ourselves in the beginning, we weren't tracking anything. And I mean, how can you tell if you're doing the right thing? You literally can't. There's no way. You could go off your gut feeling, but I think we all know every once in a while, our gut feeling is incorrect, actually.
Yeah.
So.
What gets measured gets fixed. I mean, that's the reality of it. So if you're not measuring it and tracking it, there's no way you're going to be able to spend time and fix it. So no, but like I said, there's unlimited amounts of things you can measure. So if you just brainstorm all the different KPIs, for lack of a better, all the KPIs that you can possibly measure, and then you rank them or force rank them, and then you make sure that the ones that have the highest return on your investment, the whole 80-20 rule, the things that the 20% of them that are going to give you the 80% in return, focus on those, and consistently follow through and check through them weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever your timeline is, and then share those we share those with our team so they can give us input back on those.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest key is consistency. Like, again, talking about even what you said before, showing up on time, doing all that stuff. Awesome. Be consistent on those KPIs, because in the beginning, speaking from experience, a little bit tricky to be, constantly updating those and keeping track of everything. But you guys, you are going to thank yourselves 1,000 times over if you just become consistent, because then it'll become a habit. Just schedule some time at the end of the day, go through whatever. That will work wonders for you growing your business. I think we both promise.
And that data that you create, because the information that the spreadsheets or however you track it, it's only as good as the information you put in. But then if you do it consistently for a period of time, then you've got data that's real life data that you can find trends in. And then if you find those trends within that data, then that helps you to make sure that you're basically steering the ship in the right way. Are you if you have a target and you have a where you're at right now and you have a trend that's pointing that in a certain direction, is the trend pointing you in the direction towards your target or away from your target? And then it gives you the opportunity to adjust, and you can follow that. And the more often you check those things, the more accurate that trend is going to be.
Absolutely. Right on the head, Ken. And now we were talking sales for a little bit. Let's take it back a step and let's talk about how you guys, right now are getting people in the door. How are people finding you? How are people hearing about you? What happens when they want to reach out to you? Tell us a little bit about your guys' marketing strategies right now.
Well, so actually, I'll take a one step back. I'll say, because
Yeah.
if I'm speaking to people who aren't already in my position or don't have the funds that I spend towards marketing and things like that, when we started early on, we had little to zero marketing money, right? So now we have a budget, we have a certain amount of money to spend. We had none. So I would spend, my wife and I would spend all our time that we had available free putting our name out, whatever the way that looked like. Any type of free event that I could go to, that I could give out my business card, I would do it. Every restaurant I went to, I would leave my business card on the table. Every single time I had the opportunity to, put my name in for an award or anything that gets my name out there, social media, Google reviews, whatever it is that got our company's name out there that didn't cost any money or cost very little money. That it seemed like a lot of things with very little return early on, but ultimately over time it builds and it compounds on itself. So it may be little things, but when you do a lot of those consistently for a long time, it starts compounding.
Yeah, definitely. And something I love that you said as well is the Google reviews. And I think that's something that's so many people look past. Once you have that Google My Business page set up, which is pretty easy to set up, once you have that set up, that review is free.
Yep.
Takes maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes at max for somebody to leave a review. And if you've already worked with that person and you had a great relationship back and forth, you've been in their house for a long time, so they're almost like your family at that point. Asking for that review at the end is going to be super easy. And it's just going to do you guys, way more. You're going to get way more of that social proof because people are going to be basically Google. They're going to find you guys. They're going to look at your reviews. They're going to see all these people who are saying great things about you. And it is quite literally free. If you guys aren't doing any Google reviews or you aren't asking people at the end of the time, spent together to leave you guys a Google review, that is something that you need to be doing. Absolutely do the Google reviews. They are huge. And most importantly, they take almost no time. So definitely.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would say anyone that is listening to this or hear this right now that has a Google Places page, you should go to every single past client you've worked for and ask them for a review today. I had a buddy of mine that owns a small construction company. I was trying to help him out in Tennessee. And I met him on Facebook, and he called me and was asking for advice. And one of the things we talked about was Google reviews. And I said, you only have one Google review. What's going on? He's like, well, I never asked for reviews. I said, well, just write a template email, send it out to every single client you've ever done. And he called me back the next day and said he had 13 Google reviews. And I mean, when I go to buy just about anything, whether it's unless I already know about it, like a restaurant or something, if I go on my phone or go on my computer and I go look up a place, I always look for places that have good reviews and high quantity number of reviews, because that means that they've been doing things well for a long time, or that's how we perceive it, because that's how ultimately it works. And so it's just that critical. If you're not doing it, you have to.
Totally. And so, yes, absolutely. I won't harp on that any longer, but I wholeheartedly agree with that. Now, Ken, looking at this here, you guys got your budget now. You got your marketing dollars. What are you kind of prioritizing right now? What worked in the past? What didn't? If somebody was in the position where they just got out of that grind phase, now they have a little bit of money to set a budget for marketing. What do you think is the very first thing they should get into? What's in your opinion?
Probably depending, I guess, depends on the budget, but it probably would be either past clients and or social media, or a combination of the two to some degree, because social media is such a high reach for relatively small amount of money. But past clients are, I mean, if you can get past clients to spread the word for you, nothing's going to speak better than the other people speaking about you for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Nurture those, relationships for sure, because relationships, in a sense, are the new currency, and especially in this industry, that's so true because you have, people who you've worked on before. They obviously have friends and family that own houses, and the more you can provide value to them and show them, what you guys do, not only in your work but also in the actual experience, showing up on time, doing a good job, not going over costs when you can help it, all that kind of stuff. That's gonna, just being frank, do way more than marketing for you guys in the general sense, is having that, because people, they hate to be sold to, but they love to buy, right? So if
Correct.
one of their friends is telling them, oh yeah, CQC came in here, they were on time, they were awesome, really really nice guys, they were bringing my trash cans up in the morning, all this stuff, that's going to be basically, oh yeah, I've been wanting to update my whatever, I'm going to reach out, give them a call, and you guys, you don't even have to do much because they already know what you guys are all about, and
Yeah, and,
they're
and
in.
I think you are, like you said, five or six different things in there that like all bring back to kind of one of our core values is service. If you offer that above and beyond service, that's not just par for the course. That's not just what everybody else is doing, but it's under promising, over delivering, over exceeding, giving them more than what they pay for, so they feel like they got value. Let's just use, because we're talking about remodeling, what one kitchen remodel, you may do that job and you may be gone, but how many times are those people going to have a cocktail, friends over for cocktails, or they're going to have dinner and have friends over, and you want every single time for from the next month to the next 5 years that they're living in that home, you want when someone's over there and says, man, this is a beautiful kitchen, then to say CQC, or whatever the name of your company, that's who you need to hire. They did A, B, C, and D. And people remember that. People remember the service you offer, not necessarily, not quality is like a minimum standard. They're not sitting at their dining room table or sitting with their friends talking about, what type of screw you used, or how straight the lumber was. They're talking about, did you leave dust on their computer, or did you leave trash in the yard, or were the guys playing loud music? Those are the things that matter to them.
And you're absolutely right on that front. And then circling back onto what you said before as well, like social media, yeah, definitely. And it's really cool, especially now, because you have all these people who have been, we talked about this at the beginning a little bit. They have like the cabin fever. They've been in their house for a long time. And instead of, trying to find out where they are, like, social media is awesome because you meet them where they already are. If they're in their house, they're on their phone, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. You're seeing them there, and more importantly, they're seeing you. And if it's the first time, if it's the second time, if it's the 10th time that they see you guys, they've been seeing you, they're thinking about that whatever in their house that they want to fix. Like, yeah, the reach is huge, and for the return, it is extremely cheap when you actually look at it at a bigger scale. So that is awesome there. And I want to talk about this for just a second. So you guys were on HGTV. How did they find you? And like, what was your kind of role in the Love It or List It series?
So similarly to how most of our clients find us, when you because we spent so much time and energy early on in our years just putting ourselves out on every single platform, even before platforms became platforms, Yelp and Google and Facebook and Houzz. And I mean, there's so many free platforms out there that you can put information on that costs nothing. And we were asking for these Google reviews, and people, there's just, we're putting out content, blogs. And again, blogs cost no money, right? It just takes time and effort. So
Yep.
you put out enough content that when someone goes to search you, they find you. And so when HGTV came to town and they're searching for contractors and they go online, even they look for, remodeling companies in the triangle or whatever, they're going to find us because there's so much content out there. So they found us, they contacted us, asked us, did we want to be on their show? We did a couple of episodes. Got some of our teammates on some of our team members on TV, which was really cool, and kind of brought everybody together and was exciting and stuff like that. But that particular show is not necessarily about the contractor; it's about the homeowner. I mean,
Yep.
obviously you've seen it,
Yep.
but it is still cool to be part of that. And again, it goes back to that. It didn't cost us anything to be on it, and it grows our brand, it grows our recognition, and it gets people excited to want to work with us. And people say, "Oh, you're on Love It or List It." I want the company that was on Love It or List It to work on my house, right? Because it gives it like a sense of professionalism, a sense of
Yep.
respect.
Yep. Totally. And looking at kind of everything there, 100%, like having that having all that stuff's very very important. And like what you said before too about having content, like content is always going to be king, and it's free. What I see so many people missing the opportunity on is they do this beautiful job, right? It really, really professional, and they don't take any pictures of it. They don't have anything to show for it. So guys, if you're, hearing this right now and this is ringing a bell to you, it takes about a second to pull the phone out of your pocket and take a picture. Obviously make sure it's a nice picture, but that stuff you can repurpose, whether it be through, running advertisements, just posting it to your Instagram, Facebook, having that organic kind of content where people can see what you're doing and they're more familiar with you. That's huge, because a lot of the times, like Ken said, you do your research on people before you buy. And sometimes you might end up on their Facebook, you might end up on their Instagram, and having that extra content to show for that search. I mean, that's huge. The more that you can put out there, the better. And building your brand, whether it be personally or professionally, that stuff's never going to go away. That stuff people remember, that stuff that stays out there and wins you business. So definitely.
And what's gotten really popular over the last 5 years, if you're not aware, is neighborhood listservs. And next door has gotten pretty,
Oh yeah.
gotten pretty large. But back to your point earlier, you have to ask people. Mr. Customer, I know you love this kitchen we did for you, or this whatever. Would you mind going on to our listserv and just telling the people in your neighborhood about us, or sharing your experience, or if someone asks for us, please let them know. We'd be happy to serve your neighbors. And if you feel like we did a good job for you and offered value to you, then us offering value to your neighbors is only going to raise your home values and raise the caliber of the people that live there around you. And so why would they not want to do that if you gave them a good experience?
Absolutely. No, super, super important for sure. And we'll start to wrap everything up here. Kind of looking back at like one of the things now, and I really like this question. This is more of a mindset question, because I think through like when you guys started to where you're at now, you've definitely developed habits, and you've developed, certain things that you do that are second nature now, right? You don't really think about them, but what are some of the habits you've developed that you think have contributed the most success to, where you're at now?
I mean, my biggest one when it comes professionally is with this company has been service. I mean, from day one, I've always said, and I live by the mantra, that we are a service business that does remodeling. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're selling toothbrushes or you're building bathrooms, service is everything. People remember service. Everyone's had the Disney experience. Everyone's gone to a great restaurant and had good service. Everyone understands Chick-fil-A service versus McDonald's service. There's a reason why you get treated differently. Service is everything. People, even if you make mistakes, people will overlook the mistakes that you make, or be willing to work with you if you offer really, really good service to them. So I would say that probably the biggest thing that's just kind of become a habit for us is every person we meet, every client we talk to, client or prospective client, we offer them phenomenal service to the best of our ability, and that just spreads, I mean, like wildfire through the team.
And this was something that you guys always had in mind, right? Even when you started the business, you knew
Correct.
that it had to be service.
Correct.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I mean, just not to reiterate, but like it is so important, because people do remember the experience more than the finished product and what everything looked like. And that's what they're going to be talking about, because a lot of the times, think about the conversations that they have with their friends or their neighbors or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, this is beautiful. How were the people working on it? How were they? Because that's almost always going to come up. Unfortunately, the remodeling space has kind of a stigma of, people being late, leaving big messes, all that stuff. And for you guys to, do your service, do it awesome, and then have that homeowner say to their friend, family member, neighbor, whatever, oh my God, they were the best. They were doing all this. Like, yes, make sure you focus on that, because that's gonna get you guys so far. And then last thing I'll wrap up here with, and then we'll kind of just shut everything down here. Advice that you would give yourself, 13 years ago when you were just starting, your future current Ken right now, going back to 13 years younger Ken, what would you tell him? What would be some takeaways that you'd give him?
Probably first I'd say, that treat everybody fairly and equally. It always comes back around. Even if you feel like you're not, even if you feel like you're losing in a situation, it always comes back around. It builds on itself. Second, I would say small things, that create habits ultimately become who you are and how you do things. And And so doing things, even small things consistently over a long period of time, it doesn't seem like it in the moment that you're getting traction, but it's compounding interest. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's not just the things added to the things, it's the things times the things, because the more of them you do, the more that compounds on each other, and the things you used to do become success for you. So do small things consistently, right, all the time, and then I mean, follow your gut. If you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. If it's a good decision or not decision, or you feel if it's a good decision. If you do, go with it. Take some risk, and we've got more information, more resources than we've ever had in the history of the world, right? So I tell all of my employees, I say, look, you got the whole world of information right here. There's no excuse. You can figure anything out. You can learn anything. You can train yourself. You can learn how to do Japanese in 2 years if you wanted to, right? But you've got to be willing to put in the energy, to effort. You got to want to do it, and do those things, small things consistently over a long period of time, become who you are.
That's awesome, Ken. Before we wrap up here, I'm just going to share my takeaways that I kind of wrote down. The big key points that we hit on that I really resonated with, and I really agree with. The first thing you said, man, slow to hire, quick to fire. I like that. And I think a lot of people, in this space are always talking about finding good work, and having that longer intro process, that longer interview process to hire on attitude instead of, on paper, if they look like a good fit, is truly going to set you guys up for so much success down the road. Because if you can identify some of that stuff early in the process, you're going to save yourself not only time, money, but also, headaches down the road. So making sure that you're hiring the right people to see your vision. Next thing, KPIs, your key performance indicators. Start tracking. It's never too early to start tracking. You should be tracking basically as soon as you start any business, no matter the field. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're consistent, not only with the tracking, with also showing up on time, answering the phones. All that stuff is just going to be bricks to build a skyscraper. Super important. Something you said that I say all the time myself is under promise and over deliver. Never set the expectation just, oh yeah, we're going to do XYZ. It's going to be awesome. When you know that you may or may not be able to deliver on that, make sure that you're very, very, very upfront, very realistic with people. And then when you have the opportunity, over deliver, over deliver, over deliver, over deliver. And then the last thing I'll take away here is service. Make sure that you guys are not only, providing that experience, but you are truly a service company first. And I think you put it perfectly, Ken. That is an awesome way of looking at everything. Service first. That's what you guys do. You do service, and then, you do remodeling, or you do whatever else.
That's right. Awesome. Thanks so, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. It was great talking with you.
You as well, Ken. Last thing here, brother. Where can we get in contact with you guys if we're looking to find you?
Probably the best thing is go to our website, which is www.cqchome.com. So that's quincycathome.com. We've got, you can learn about our team, learn about what we do, how we do it. And of course you can follow us on social media. If you just look us up on Facebook or Instagram at CQC Home, you should be able to find us pretty easily.
Right on. We'll tag you guys down in the descriptions, Ken.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time, brother. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.